Okay, we've talked about pulse being the shortest repetitive thing that happens in music, the thing that you nod your head to. Okay, it indicates how fast a song is moving by, and that speed is measured, or we call that tempo, the speed at which a song is played. We've been able to break that into some tempo markings. These are the traditional Italian tempo markings here, from slow to fast. And more recently, we've started to identify that as beats per minute because we have more accurate tools for measuring exactly how many times we nod our head in a minute. Now, the next unit of time in a song is called a measure. It's the next biggest. The pulse is the most basic. And when we take a collection of pulses and put it together, we call that a measure or a bar. So when I use the term measure or bar, that's what I'm referring to. A bar will emphasize certain pulses and de-emphasize other pulses. A measure or bar looks like this over here on the right. Okay, you've probably seen this before. You're not going to read music in this class, but I'd like you to get an understanding of how it is presented. A musician will read notes that are placed in these measures, and they're collected into measures. Okay, watch what happens here. I play. You'll see this scroll bar move across the different measures. Okay, now on the top here, I have a new way of showing measures, which I'll get into in a second. But this information at the top and the information at the bottom is the same. Okay. So what I'm showing you right here is 5 measures, and I'm going to what is called loop through 4 of them, which means I'm going to play these 4 measures, and then when it hits this one, because I have this yellow thing up here, it's going to bounce back and start playing it again. And I'm going to put some notes in these measures so you can hear how that works. Okay, I've placed one note in the first measure. I will hit play, it'll play this note, and then there will be no notes playing here or here. Listen to it. And then when it loops through, it'll play that note again. If I add another note and another measure, it'll play that one. Now we have 2 notes across the 4 measures. 1, nothing in this measure, note. I can continue to add notes and measures like this, and I begin to have a song. Now this is a pretty boring song. So once I've set up my measures, I want to start to put notes in them. And the way to put notes in a measure is to think of it like a ruler. So I've pulled up this ruler picture right here, and I've aligned it with a measure. So this measure right here that we're looking at, I'm going to zoom in a little bit to it. I have 1 note in it, and it lasts the whole length of the measure. That is the same thing that is up here. This is a new way of us writing music, so we don't have to write these dots. This is a grid form, or piano scroll they call it. This would be the note over here, and then how long it lasts. I have 1 measure going from measure 1 to 2 right here. 1 to 2, okay? That is the same as going from 1 to 2 down here. Now you'll see this is just zoomed in a little bit here. These are tighter. But the idea is that when I hit play, it goes across that note and stops when measure 2 begins. That measure is just like a ruler. You see this ruler right here? When we want to put notes in that ruler, we can make a note last the whole measure, or we can make the note last half a measure. And if we do that, if I shorten that note right there, you'll hear that when it goes through this measure, it stops for the second half. And then there's nothing. Play it, and it stops. Okay? This is called a half note. It lasts only half a measure. A whole note would last the whole measure. Here's the whole note. A whole note looks like this. It has a circle with nothing in it and no stems on it. It's a hollow circle. That means play that note from all the way from the start of measure 1 all the way to the start of measure 2. It's like a whole inch is a way to think of it. If I only wanted to play half of that measure, I would play what's called the half note, and this is a hollow circle with a stem on it. And you'll see here that the note now only lasts half the measure. If I hit play, it pauses halfway through. Okay. The next shortest note is a quarter note, and guess what? It's just like the ruler. A quarter of an inch is a quarter of a measure, and a quarter note is a quarter of a measure. If we hit play, you'll hear it lasts a very short period of time. And it only goes a quarter of the way in the measure. It is a filled circle with a stem on it. We can shorten that even more to an 1/8 note. Watch what happens here. Now I'm getting down to an 1/8 of an inch, okay? And in fact, I'm going to put 2 of those in just because they're going to get so short. An eighth note now only lasts an eighth of a measure, the equivalent of an eighth of an inch. And it looks like this. It has a solid circle with a stem and a tie. You have to tie eighth notes together. This tells the musician to go that this is a faster note. Here's 2 eighth notes. They go by very quick. And now we can shorten it even more to a 16th of a note, just like a 16th of a ruler. I can shorten this down. Shorten this down to a 16th note. I'm going to have it play 2 of those, and these will go by really quickly. So notes are put into measures or bars, and they're defined by their length. They're either a whole bar, half bar, quarter bar, eighth bar, 16th of a bar. Okay, I'm going to compose the most boring song ever written right now, just so you can understand the difference between quarter notes, eighth notes, half notes, 16th notes, and how they fit into measures or bars. So my song right now has 5 bars in it, and I'm going to loop through those 5 bars. I'm going to insert a note that lasts an entire measure or bar. That's called a whole note. If I play it, it lasts the whole bar. Now I'm going to add 2 half notes, which each last half a bar long. And then in measure 3, I'm going to add 4 quarter notes. Measure 4, I'm going to put in 8 eighth notes. And finally, at measure 5, I'm going to put in 16th notes. I think of these notes as like the cracks on a freeway. If a car is driving down the freeway, in a similar way that our scroll bar is going to be moving along the song here, or the musician would be reading along the song, when you get to a whole note, it's like there's a long distance between the cracks in the freeway. But as you get to shorter notes, those cracks become closer together, which means they go by faster. The notes pass quicker. As I drive across this section of the freeway, it's going to sound very quick, da 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 da, versus da, very long periods of time here. Let's listen to what that sounds like as we go from whole notes down to 16th notes. Twice as fast again, twice as fast again, and I'll loop through it one more time here. Down below, you'll see the traditional notation for this. You'll see that the whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, and 16th notes are here. They are more stretched out when they get to the 16th notes, but that's just so the musician can read it. Really, these 16th notes are very short. They're only lasting this long, okay? And again, as that car drives down the freeway, it goes across these cracks in the road faster. So that is how measures and notes work, okay? Measures collect sets of notes together. It's the basic unit of time measurement in a song. And in a measure, you can have notes that last the whole measure, a quarter of the measure, a half the measure, an eighth of a measure, the 16th of a measure. The more notes there are in the measure, the shorter each note has to be. So a 16th note is much shorter than a quarter note or a whole note.